Hey y'all, thanks for tuning back into Chickanic. I hope everybody's having a great week. If you own a Stihl chainsaw or you are planning to buy a Stihl chainsaw, you need to know this information. Stihl decided to change their design a little bit. It's going to leave a lot of people confused. But today we're going to go over everything so you'll know how to avoid the confusion and hopefully save you some time, money, and frustration in the future. But before we get into today's video, if you're a fan of saving time, money, and frustration while fixing your own small engine equipment while watching in-depth tutorials, you've come to the right place because that's what I do. I upload a couple times a week, and if that sounds interesting, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, don't forget to hit the notification bell, and please leave a comment. I love to read through the comments, and I will reply to all the early commenters. So what am I talking about today, guys? Well, Stihl has decided to completely change their bar and chain design for a huge majority of chainsaws. And to most, you would think, well, what's the problem with that? Well, it's a huge problem if you don't know what you're looking for. So I had one of my commercial guys bring in two of his chainsaws today, and they're pretty close in design. One is an MS250 and one is a MS251. So this is more of an upgraded model. Now, when he came in, he said, hey, those chains that I bought for you for my chainsaws last time, they didn't fit. And I'm like, well, I don't cut the wrong size. I mean, I buy 100-foot rolls and I make sure that I know what I'm cutting before I do it. You know, measure twice, cut once. But lo and behold, I cut him the wrong chains because me not being a Stihl dealer, I did not know that Stihl decided to completely change their bar and chains after decades. And that's exactly what happened. Last year, Stihl came out with a new bar and chain design, and you might have noticed them. They have a little bit of a design on them. They're called the 04 light steel bar or something like that. Usually you would see regular Stihl bars. I don't have a new one here, but they'd have just this tan color with the Stihl writing on the side. And I saw these bars and I just thought, hey, they decided to put a cool design on them. I didn't think they were much different, but they totally are different. Which means if you have a Stihl MS250 and you had the original bar on it, that was the gray bar, and you decide, I bent my bar or the sprocket tip is, messed up. I got to get a new bar, but I still got a bunch of chains, especially my commercial guys who buy chains in bulk. You go to your local Ace Hardware or someplace that sells Stihl stuff. You look up on their huge display. You see there's bars, one that fits a MS250 with an 18-inch. You grab the bar, you take it home. You don't think much about it, but there's a 50% chance now that that bar ain't going to work. So I want to show you a little bit about chains to make you understand first. When you go to purchase a new chain, the majority of the time there is 4 different size chains that you might have on your chainsaw that fit like 98% of all chainsaws. You have 3/8 low, 3/8 full, 325 50 gauge, 325 63 gauge. And see how I have on there written Stihl? Well, the 3/8 low and the 3/8 full are pretty easy to tell apart. 3/8 full is this big, huge chain here. 3/8 low is a much smaller tooth, but the actual driver, just like on this one, is the same size. It's going to fit the same sprocket. It's going to fit in the bar. Now, there are some much smaller chains that are going to go on a lot of the real small saws. They're the 43 gauge 3/8 and like the little micro Pico chain there. That goes on the real small stuff. Like your pole saws, the MS180, the MS170, things like that. You might boost up in size to an MS211, and it's gonna have that 3/8 low 50 gauge, the regular one. You boost up to the big bad boys like my MS440, the best saw ever made, and it's gonna have that 3/8 full. Now, a bunch of the mid-size saws, they're going to carry that mid-chain, that 325 pitch. And as you saw over there, I had one of them marked Stihl that was 63 gauge. Now, what exactly is the gauge? The gauge is how wide the driver is that rides inside of your bar. Now, forever, Poulans, Echoes, Husqvarnas, all were 50 gauge. 99% of the time, the only one that was 63 gauge, and it was always 63 gauge, if it was 325 pitch, was Stihl. If I sold a 325 pitch chain for a Stihl, it was 63 gauge. Now, what's the problem with that? Now the sprocket will run it just fine. The bar sprocket will run it just fine, whether it's either gauge. But the bar track itself, where it's riding in the bar, if you try to put a 63 gauge chain in a 50 gauge bar, it's not going to fit in the track. If you try to put a 50 gauge chain in a 63 gauge bar, it's going to lean side or side and you're going to cut crooked. But there wasn't really an issue as long as you knew it was a Stihl, it was 63 gauge, everything was fine, it was going to work. You can move chains back and forth, bars back and forth, it wasn't a big deal. But now, if you bought an MS250 a couple years ago, you got the regular old Stihl bar on it. Now this was 68 drivers, 325 pitch, 63 gauge. Now you want to buy a new chain. You go to the store, you look up a Stihl MS250 chain that's 18 inch. But now with Stihl's new design, they came out with one that is 50 gauge. Why? Why would you even do that? Which means you could have a saw from 2 years ago that you bought. It's got the old gray Stihl bar on it. You go to buy a bar and you have a ton of chains at home. You better make sure that you bought that same bar, because if you get the one with the design on it, your chains ain't gonna fit. Or if you bought one since last year and it's got this fancy design on the bar, and you go to your local store, you buy a chain for a Stihl MS250, you gotta take that extra step, make sure that you're not buying the wrong one. And the crazy part is you can go to a Stihl store right now, buy a brand new saw, it come with this fancy design on the bar, and go to a completely different Stihl store and them still have Stihls with gray bars on them. Same exact saw. Only difference is the bar and chain, but you can't swap them. Why would anybody do that? I know, I'm just ranting. I just don't like change whenever there's absolutely no reason for it and it's going to do nothing but cause people a lot of confusion. So, if you have an old Stihl or you have purchased a Stihl, you have to know which bar you have before you can buy a chain. And make sure you know the gauge, because I don't want to let you end up cutting in circles or getting super frustrated that your chain don't fit in your bar. So hopefully that little tidbit of information will save you some time, money, and frustration in the future. On a lighter note though, I did something super cool this weekend and I want to tell you about it. On Sunday, I got to go to a local high school and teach about 50 young men how to fix a pull rope. I made a few posts about it to let y'all know, and some of you were a little confused as why there was no young ladies there, but there's a reason for it. These guys have all joined a program in the community. They come from multiple different schools in the county. It's called Young Men of Distinction, where they learn life skills, they volunteer helping the needy, and just generally learn how to be good dudes. They were all extremely respectful, very attentive, and I had so much fun teaching them. So I was truly thankful that they invited me out and hope to be asked again. I wanted to keep it with something super simple like a pull rope because I only had 15 minutes with each group, but hopefully they took away something from it. So guys, thanks again for tuning into Chickanic. Hopefully this video will save you some time, money, and frustration in the future. If you find yourself coming back over and over again, think about hitting that subscribe button. And if you ain't tired of me yet, check this video out right here.